Returning to our top story this evening in the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says the suspect's clothes may have been purchased from Walmart, but they're not exclusively available at that store.
Right now, Savannah Guthrie shares a new message for hope as a piece of evidence found near the scene of her mother's disappearance could provide some answers.
Ashley Banfield, who hosts her own podcast called Drop Dead Serious, is breaking exclusives on this case like nobody's business. And yesterday, she had quite a doozy.
When FBI agents stepped inside Nancy Guthrie's house after her abduction, they expected broken glass, forced entry, signs of a struggle. Instead, they found something far worse. A house that looked almost normal. Almost. The doorbell camera had been toggled off from the inside. Not ripped out, not smashed. Quietly switched off by someone who knew exactly where it was. The back door, the only entry point without a deadbolt, was wide open. And on the kitchen counter, Nancy's sleeping pills, the ones she took every night at 10, sat untouched, meaning whoever came for her arrived before she ever had the chance to take them. Agents moved room to room, and one detail kept hitting them. Nothing was broken because nothing needed to be. Whoever did this didn't break in. They'd been invited in. They'd had dinner here. They knew this house better than the agents searching it. And what investigators uncovered next confirmed the worst thing anyone could have imagined. The footage nobody was supposed to see. 6 miles from that house, inside a windowless FBI interrogation room, the man who fit that description was already seated. Nancy Guthrie's son-in-law. Still wearing the pajamas he had on when a SWAT team put a battering ram through his front door at 4:30 in the morning. Hair matted, eyes swollen, but already performing, blinking under the fluorescent lights with this theatrical confusion, like a man who couldn't possibly fathom why federal agents had just dragged him out of bed. And here's the thing. Every second of what happened next was captured on camera. This interrogation footage was sealed inside a federal case file, never intended for the public, but it leaked. And what it shows over the next 6 hours is a man dismantling himself in real time. 2 agents sit across from him. Lead interrogator, Special Agent Russell Dante, a 23-year veteran out of the FBI's Violent Crimes Division, known internally for one very specific talent: cracking suspects who walk in believing they're the smartest person in the room. His partner, a younger agent, barely speaks for the entire 6 hours, but his pen never stops moving. Every flinch, every micro-expression, documented. Here's where it all starts going wrong. Agent Dante reads the Miranda warnings. The son-in-law waves them off like they're a formality, doesn't pause, doesn't think. He declines a lawyer with the casual arrogance of a man who's already decided he's going to outmaneuver 2 federal investigators and walk out of this building before lunch. That single decision, made in under 3 seconds, destroyed his life.
No one's been cleared. Everyone's a suspect. So it is not inappropriate to start where all law enforcement starts, which is with the family, and work out. That's what you're doing. You would be doing that even if your law enforcement source had not said that the brother-in-law may be the prime suspect.
His opening performance is polished. I have absolutely no idea why I'm here. I would never hurt Nancy. She's my mother-in-law. I love her like my own mother. Hands flat on the table, steady eye contact, every word rehearsed. He'd clearly spent time preparing for this. What he didn't prepare for was Russell Dante. The last night. When agents asked him to walk through the evening Nancy disappeared, he delivered his timeline with the kind of smooth consistency that only comes from practice. Nancy came over for dinner. They played card games, her favorite, the same one she'd been playing since her daughters were small. She was in great spirits. Around 9:45, he volunteered to drive her home because it was getting dark. Now, here's the detail that matters. He described how Nancy laughed at her own dinner table that night, telling a story about her late husband over dessert. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, a woman who kept a framed photo of her grandchildren in her purse and called each of them every Sunday morning, without fail, spent her last evening as a free woman laughing, surrounded by family she trusted completely, including the man sitting across from Agent Dante right now. But here's the catch. For 90 full minutes, the son-in-law held it together. Total composure, zero nerves. He even asked the agents how the investigation was going, playing the worried family member eager to help, not the man who set the whole thing in motion. And Agent Dante let him. Let him talk. Let him repeat his story. Let him grow more comfortable with each retelling. Because Dante wasn't listening for information anymore. He was building a trap, giving this man every chance to lock himself into a version of events that was about to be blown apart by a single audio recording. But that recording, it wasn't even the worst thing in the room. Not even close. The phone call. 90 minutes in. The son-in-law is leaning back, almost relaxed, rolling through his third retelling like he's telling it to a friend. Agent Dante signals his partner without breaking eye contact. The younger agent places a laptop and audio equipment on the table, no explanation. Dante's whole energy shifts. The warmth drains out of his voice like someone flipped a switch. He leans forward and says 7 words. "I want you to listen very carefully." The son-in-law's face flickers. Mild curiosity, even a little amusement, that lasted exactly as long as it took for his own voice to come out of those speakers. The recording is a traced phone call. Burner phone to the son-in-law's personal cell. 2:47 in the morning. On it, the kidnapper is discussing Nancy's deteriorating condition, the failed ransom plan, and what to do with her now that everything has gone sideways. And the son-in-law is right there in the conversation. Not listening, not surprised, talking logistics, referencing details about Nancy's captivity that only the person running the operation would ever know. And get this, the physical transformation on that footage is something you cannot unsee. The color drains from his face in real time, not a figure of speech. His skin goes from normal to gray in seconds. His hands, rock steady on that table for over an hour, start trembling so hard the camera picks it up from 6 feet away. His entire body pulls backward like the chair shocked him. The confident lean gone, replaced by a man trying to shrink into nothing. Silence swallows the room. 3 seconds, 5, 7. Dante lets it sit, lets it press down on this man like a physical weight. Then he breaks it. "That's your voice, isn't it?" The son-in-law tries. "That doesn't sound like me." His voice cracks on the word me. "I don't know what that is." But every syllable betrays him. He knows, they know, the camera knows. Dante plays it again. This time he pauses at specific moments, isolating each statement that proves this man was coordinating the kidnapping. Each pause is surgical. Each one peels back another layer of the act. The son-in-law's breathing goes shallow and fast, visible on camera, like someone fighting the urge to be sick. He scrambles. The call was about something else. Business stuff. A personal situation with his cousin Marcus that's being taken out of context. He even tries to claim the recording was fabricated. Dante doesn't dignify that. The FBI's audio forensics lab had already authenticated it. Chain of custody, airtight. Voice biometrics, confirmed. The son-in-law's eyes dart to the door, then back. For the first time in 90 minutes, he looks like what he actually is. A man with no way out. Dante lets that last excuse hang in the air just long enough to let the son-in-law believe it might be working. Then, the younger agent reaches for the folder. If this is your first time here and you're already locked in, subscribe right now. Because what agents pulled out of that folder next made the phone call look like a warm-up. The text messages. The younger agent drops a thick folder on the table. It lands heavy. Inside, printed copies of every text message between the son-in-law's phone and Marcus's phone, spanning 3 weeks before Nancy vanished through the night she was taken. Agent Dante starts reading them out loud, slowly, deliberately, sliding each page across the table so the son-in-law can see his own words staring back at him in black ink. Messages detailing which night works best. Notes about Nancy's predictable routine. Instructions to disable the doorbell camera first thing. Which entry point is weakest. Nancy's sleeping pill schedule and exactly how long to wait after she takes them. Now, pay attention to this. These aren't vague texts that could mean anything. They reference Nancy's specific home layout, her vulnerability window, her medication schedule. The woman who laughed at dinner that night and trusted this man to drive her home safely, reduced to a target profile in his own messages. The son-in-law's defense? His phone was hacked. Someone planted those texts to frame him. Agent Dante didn't blink. Cell tower records placed the phone at the son-in-law's verified locations when each message was sent. His office, his house, restaurants where credit card receipts confirmed he was present. The timestamps matched his daily routine in ways no remote hacker could replicate. He pivoted again. Marcus fabricated them somehow, spoofed them. That collapsed too. The messages existed in 4 independent places: Marcus's phone, the carrier's servers, the son-in-law's own device, and cloud backups that forensic analysis confirmed were authentic and completely unaltered. 4 sources, all matching perfectly. His face on that footage tells you everything. A man watching the walls close in, one piece of evidence at a time. But the texts weren't the worst of it, not by a long shot. What agents found on his laptop made everything, the phone call, the messages, all of it, feel like prologue. The laptop. Here's the deal. 3 days before his arrest, the son-in-law ran a commercial data wiping program on his laptop, targeted the internet history specifically. Thought he'd erased everything. He hadn't. FBI digital forensic specialists recovered every single search, every query, every digital fingerprint he thought was gone forever. And when Agent Dante started reading them aloud from a printed forensic report, his voice flat, clinical, almost monotone, the younger agent's pen stopped moving for the first time in 4 hours. He just stared at the table. Searches for how to kidnap someone without leaving evidence. Queries about anonymous Bitcoin ransom payments. Research into how long elderly individuals can survive without their prescribed medications. Methods for disposing of remains in desert locations. Comparisons between sentencing for kidnapping versus murder. And the most chilling entry, search 72 hours before Nancy disappeared. Whether accomplices receive lesser sentences if the victim dies during captivity. Let that sink in. He wasn't just planning a kidnapping. He was gaming out what happens if Nancy doesn't survive it, maybe planning for that outcome, maybe counting on it. And somewhere on that same timeline, he was sitting across from this woman at family dinners, passing her the salt, kissing her on the cheek goodbye, driving her home in the dark. The searches spanned 3 weeks. They escalated from general curiosity into horrifyingly specific operational planning. Disabling doorbell cameras, bypassing residential alarm systems, finding accomplices willing to commit crimes for cash, all on the same laptop, where forensics also found searches for Nancy's exact medication schedule and her home security system model. His defense? He was researching a crime novel. Dante shut it down in 3 sentences. No manuscript on the laptop, no notes, no outlines. Not a single document suggesting any writing project had ever existed on that machine. At that point, the son-in-law tried invoking his Fifth Amendment right to silence. Too late. 3 hours of recorded lies, contradictions, and failed explanations were already on that camera. The damage was done. But the evidence still wasn't finished with him. What agents laid? Out next, explained not just how he planned this, but why he was desperate enough to do it in the first place. Following the money. 3 hours in, agents shifted to motive, and what they uncovered was the portrait of a man so far underwater that he convinced himself kidnapping an 84-year-old woman was the only way out. 3 details, that's all it took. First, total financial collapse. Checking account overdrawn by thousands. Every credit card maxed, payments months behind. Mortgage in default with foreclosure 60 days away. Total debt north of $250,000 against income that barely covered the monthly minimum. Second, $30,000 in unexplained cash withdrawals in the 3 weeks before Nancy vanished. When agents asked where it went, his answers kept shifting. Business expenses, home repairs, then a blank stare and the admission that he couldn't remember. $30,000, just gone. But here's where desperation turns into motive. Nancy's will left her multi-million-dollar estate split equally between her 2 daughters. If Nancy died before changing it, Annie, the son-in-law's wife, would inherit roughly $2 million, shared marital property. Every debt gone, every creditor paid, every problem erased by one inheritance check. But Nancy had already scheduled an appointment with her attorney to execute a revised will that would dramatically cut Annie's share. That appointment was days away. And the son-in-law knew. Agents confirmed he'd overheard Nancy discussing the changes at a family dinner. The same dinner where she'd laughed telling stories about her late husband. The same dinner where she'd let him drive her home. He wasn't just broke, he was watching $2 million slip through his fingers. And the clock was almost out. The breaking point? 4.5 hours in. The footage shows a man who's physically falling apart, slumped in his chair, hands shaking nonstop. The confident guy from Hour 1 is gone, replaced by someone with hollow eyes who's run out of lies and knows it. Dante saw the crack, shifted completely. The pressure disappeared, replaced by something warmer and much more dangerous. Look, I've been doing this 23 years. I've seen a lot of people where you're sitting. Things start as one thing and spiral into something you never meant. Maybe you just wanted to scare her, get her to rethink the will. Maybe you figured Marcus holds her a day or two. She agrees, everyone goes home. Then it got out of hand. He dropped his voice. But right now, Nancy is out there somewhere. She's 84, no heart medication, no blood pressure pills. She's got that little photo of her grandkids in her purse, the one she carries everywhere, and she's alone. You can end that right now. In this room. The son-in-law's walls cracked, his eyes filled with tears for the first time in 4.5 hours. And then it came. The first real admission. I knew Marcus was having money problems. I gave him some cash to help out. How much? Maybe $20,000. And just like that, every lie he'd told collapsed. He'd claimed he couldn't remember where the cash went. Now he's admitting 20 grand went straight to the man who physically took Nancy. He connected himself to the kidnapper with his own mouth on camera in a federal building. That crack was about to become a complete cave-in. The final collapse. With outright denial dead, the son-in-law grabbed for his last play, admit he knew Marcus, but insist Marcus acted alone. His cousin was unstable, desperate, must have planned the whole thing independently using things he overheard at family dinners. Dante let him spin that story for a few minutes, nodded, took notes, made it look like the new version was landing. Then he dismantled it with one sentence. We have Marcus in the next room, and he's telling us something very different. The blood left the son-in-law's face for the second time that morning. Marcus was giving them everything. The specific restaurant where they planned it, a back booth, no cameras. The parking lot where cash was passed through a car window. Detailed instructions about Nancy's house that Marcus could never have known on his own. Which rooms had motion sensors, where the spare key was hidden. He even knew Nancy's exact sleeping pills and what time she took them. That's not something you pick up at a family barbecue. That's a briefing, and get this, criminals almost always bet on loyalty. They assume their accomplice will keep quiet and take the hit. That bet is almost universally wrong when federal charges hit the table. The second Marcus realized he was facing decades in federal prison, not state, federal, self-preservation took over. It always does. More evidence piled on. Restaurant security footage showing the two men meeting privately before Nancy vanished. Witness statements from staff who overheard them. Oh, discussing a job. Financial records proving payments beyond the $30,000 already delivered. Cornered, the son-in-law tried his final move, a carefully worded partial confession. The kidnapping conversations were hypothetical. He may have mentioned Nancy's routine, but never told Marcus to actually take her. Dante pointed back to the 2:47 a.m. phone call. A man who's surprised by a crime doesn't get calls from the kidnapper discussing the victim's condition. A man who's surprised doesn't talk logistics about a failed ransom. A man who's surprised doesn't ask what to do with an 84-year-old woman who's running out of time. The footage captures the exact moment the son-in-law understood. No version of this story ends with him walking free. And somewhere down that hallway, Marcus was filling in every single gap the physical evidence couldn't reach. 6 hours. 6 hours. That's how long it took for a man who strutted into the room thinking he was the smartest one in it to completely come apart under the weight of his own lies. But here's the thing that haunts investigators to this day. Across 6 hours, across dozens of chances, across every emotional moment in that room, the son-in-law never once asked about Nancy. Not once. Never asked if she was okay. Never asked if anyone had found her. Never asked if she was alive. Every tear he shed was for himself. Every breakdown was about his future, his consequences, his collapsing world. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, the woman who called her grandchildren every Sunday morning, who carried their photo in her purse, who laughed at her own dinner table the night she was taken, was never a person to this man. She was a dollar sign, an obstacle, a problem standing between him and $2 million that was days from disappearing. That's the detail that stays with you long after the footage ends. Not the evidence, not the laptop, not the phone call, the silence where a single question about Nancy should have been. What Marcus told agents about those first 48 hours after Nancy was taken left hardened investigators unable to speak. Subscribe now. That interrogation is coming next. And the question everyone in that building was asking, whether Nancy Guthrie was still alive when they finally found her, gets answered. What comes out of that room changes everything about this case.